You are not disturbed by the world, but by how you touch it with your mind. The rain does not fall with intention toward you, nor does the wind carry judgment in its passing. What moves through your day arrives without agenda, and yet something within you meets it, shapes it, gives it weight or lets it go. The heaviness you feel is not the thing itself, but the way you hold it, the way your thoughts wrap around it and pull it close or set it down. The uncontrollable is not your burden. The response is. So much unfolds beyond the reach of your hands, beyond the borders of your influence, and it will continue to unfold whether you strain against it or not. What belongs to you is smaller, quieter, and it lives in the space between what happens and what you do with it. That space is yours alone, and it is enough. Your will guides your choices, not the events surrounding them. The world presents itself in endless variation, in weather and words and moments you did not design, and still you remain the one who decides what you will do, what you will carry, what you will become in the midst of it all. The current may be strong, but your hand is still on the rudder. You cannot rule fortune, but you can rule your gaze upon it. What arrives may be welcomed or unwelcomed, gentle or harsh, but the meaning you assign to it is not written into the event itself. It is something you bring, something you place there, and it can be placed differently. The same circumstance can be met with fear or with steadiness, with resistance or with acceptance, and the circumstance does not choose for you. What others think cannot touch your core unless you invite it in. Their opinions move through the air like distant sounds, and they may be loud or soft, kind or cutting, but they do not enter you by force. You are the one who opens the door, who listens closely, who lets the words settle into your chest or lets them pass by like clouds. What lives at the center of you is untouched by the noise unless you bring it inside yourself. The thoughts of others belong to them, shaped by their own fears and hopes, their own way of seeing, and they do not define what you are. You remain separate, whole, and free to decide what you will believe about yourself. The world continues its motion, and you continue yours. And between the two there is always this quiet place where you meet what comes with your own stillness. Nothing that happens outside of you can reach the part of you that chooses, that sees, that remains steady even when everything else is moving. You are not at the mercy of the day, though the day will bring what it brings. You are not bound by what you cannot change, though much will remain beyond your changing. What is yours is enough, and it has always been enough, and it will be enough tomorrow and the day after. The noise fades, the urgency fades, and what remains is simple and soft and does not need to be anything more than it is. Nothing external can imprison you if you do not grant it the power. The bars you feel are not made of iron or stone, but of the meanings you assign, the stories you repeat, the weight you choose to carry. What stands before you has no ability to hold you unless you believe it does, unless you wrap yourself in its presence and call it a cage. The door has always been unlocked, and the key has always been in your hand. The only true control lies in how gently you hold your thoughts. They arrive without asking, rising and falling like breath, and you cannot stop their coming, but you can soften your grip on them. You can let them move through you without clutching, without chasing, without turning them into something solid and unmovable. The thought itself is light, but the holding makes it heavy, and the heaviness is optional. You are not in command of time, only of your awareness within it. The hours pass without your permission, and the days fold into one another whether you notice or not. You cannot slow them or speed them or hold them still, but you can be present inside them, awake to what is here, attentive to the moment that exists now and will never exist again. Time moves, and you move with it, and your presence is the only thing that makes it real. The universe owes you no explanation, only participation. It does not pause to justify its patterns or reveal its reasons, and it will not answer every question you bring to it. What it offers is the chance to be here, to witness, to act, to feel the textures of existence without needing them to make sense in the way you wish they would. You are invited to take part, not to understand everything, and the invitation is enough. Fate is neither foe nor friend, it simply is. What unfolds does not arrive with malice or kindness, with purpose aimed at you or indifference meant to wound. It unfolds because that is what things do, because the world moves in its own rhythm, and you are part of that rhythm without being its center or its target. There is no need to fight what cannot be changed, and no need to seek favor from what has no opinion of you. What is, and you are here within it, meeting it as it comes. The moments you cannot control stretch out in all directions, vast and endless, and yet somewhere in the middle of them is the small quiet place where you decide what you will do, what you will think, what you will become. That place does not shrink or disappear when the world grows loud or difficult. It remains, steady and untouched, waiting for you to return to it whenever you are ready. You do not need to force anything, or prove anything, or win anything. You only need to be here, awake, aware, and willing to let what is be what it is. The struggle fades when you stop insisting that things be different, and what remains is soft and simple and does not ask for more than you can give. The universe continues, and you continue, and the two of you move together in a quiet dance that requires no music and no applause. Events carry no malice, they simply move as they must. The storm does not gather to punish you, and the silence does not arrive to comfort you. What happens happens because conditions align in ways beyond intention, beyond personal meaning, and the unfolding is neutral even when it feels pointed. There is no conspiracy in the world's motion, no targeted cruelty, only the endless cascade of cause-meeting effect, of one thing leading to another without regard for your hopes or fears. The world does not owe you its course. Walk with it, not before it. You cannot stand ahead and demand that things arrange themselves according to your vision, cannot reshape the path before your feet touch it. What you can do is move alongside what is already moving, step with the rhythm that exists, align yourself with the flow rather than insist it bend to meet you. The current is strong, and walking against it only exhausts you, but walking with it asks nothing more than your willingness to be carried. There is peace in knowing you are a part, not the whole. The pressure lifts when you stop believing that everything depends on you, that your presence must fill every space, that your absence would unmake the world. You are here, and your being here matters in the quiet way all things matter, but you are not the center around which everything revolves. You are one thread in a tapestry too large to see all at once, and the pattern continues with or without your understanding of it. The cosmos is vast, your task is small, but noble within it. Stars burn in distances you cannot fathom, and time stretches beyond the reach of human counting, and somewhere in the middle of all that immensity is you, with your small hands and your brief moments and your simple choices. What you do will not reshape galaxies or alter the course of ages, but it does not need to. The smallness of your task does not diminish its worth, and the quiet way you move through your days is enough, has always been enough, will always be enough. Life unfolds as it must, be its witness, not its judge. What arrives comes because the conditions for its arrival were met, and what leaves goes because its time has passed, and none of it asks for your approval or your condemnation. You can stand beside it all and watch, can notice the way things rise and fall, can feel the textures of existence without needing to declare them right or wrong. The judging only adds weight, only builds walls between you and what is real, and when you set it down, what remains is clearer, softer, more honest. The world continues its motion, indifferent and unhurried, and you continue yours, and the two are not separate even when they feel that way. You are woven into the fabric of everything that is, not as its master or its victim, but as its participant, its witness, its quiet companion. The days will bring what they bring, and you will meet them as you meet them, and the meeting is all that is asked of you. There is no need to control what cannot be controlled, no need to understand what remains beyond understanding. What is here is enough, and you are enough, and the simple act of being present, of breathing, of noticing, is the only task that truly belongs to you. The noise fades, the urgency fades, and what remains is the quiet knowledge that you are part of something vast and ancient and ongoing, and your part, however small, is exactly what it needs to be. The uncontrollable teaches humility, not despair. When you meet the edge of your influence and find that the world will not bend to your wishes, you are not being shown your weakness but your place. The lesson is not that you are powerless, but that power has limits, and those limits are not failures. They are simply the borders of what it means to be human, to be finite, to be one small presence in an infinite unfolding. What you learn there is not hopelessness but proportion, not defeat but honesty. What you cannot guide, you can greet with composure. The things that will not answer to your hand still arrive at your door, still pass through your days, and you can meet them without panic, without the frantic need to wrestle them into submission. You can stand before them with steady breath and open eyes, acknowledging their presence without letting them topple you. The greeting is enough, the simple recognition that this is what is here now, and you are here with it, and neither of you needs to be anything other than what you are. Accepting what is brings more power than striving to change what is not. The fight to reshape what cannot be reshaped drains you, pulls your attention into impossible battles, leaves you exhausted by the effort of pushing against walls that will not move. But when you let what is simply be what it is, when you stop insisting that reality conform to your preferences, something shifts. The energy you were spending on resistance returns to you, and you find yourself able to act where action matters, to choose where choice exists, to live inside the truth of the moment rather than the fantasy of what you wish it were. To accept outcome is to acknowledge the vastness beyond you. What happens is shaped by forces you cannot see, by chains of cause that stretch back further than you can trace, by the meeting of countless conditions that had nothing to do with your intentions. When you accept this, you are not surrendering your agency but recognizing its scale. You are one voice in a chorus too large to count, one movement in a dance too complex to choreograph, and your acceptance is not defeat but clarity. Serenity awaits where control ends and understanding begins. The peace you seek does not live in the place where you have managed to arrange everything according to your will, because that place does not exist and never will. It lives in the quiet that comes when you stop demanding that the world explain itself to you, when you stop needing everything to make sense in the way you think it should. Understanding does not mean knowing why or knowing what comes next. It means seeing that things are as they are, that you are as you are, and that the gap between them does not need to be closed by force. The striving can end, and when it does, what remains is soft and still and does not ask anything of you. The world continues its motion, vast and indifferent and beautiful in its indifference, and you continue yours, small and present and enough in your smallness. What you cannot control will remain beyond your reach, and what you can control is simpler than you imagined, quieter, more intimate. The humility of knowing the difference is not a burden but a gift, and the composure that comes with it is not resignation but freedom. You are released from the impossible task of holding the universe in your hands, and what you are left with is only what was ever truly yours. Your breath, your attention, your presence in this moment, and the next, and the next. The rest unfolds as it must, and you unfold with it, and the unfolding is enough. Peace begins when you no longer demand that life obey your plans. The blueprint you carried, the vision of how things were supposed to unfold, becomes lighter when you set it down. Life moves in its own direction, following patterns you did not design, and your insistence that it follow your map only creates friction between what is and what you wish were so. When you release that insistence, when you stop holding your expectations like weapons against reality, something eases. The world does not change, but your relationship to it shifts, and in that shift is the beginning of quiet. Resisting what is makes the weight heavier than it must be. The circumstance itself has its own mass, its own presence, but the resistance you bring to it doubles that weight, triples it, turns something you might have carried into something that crushes you. When you push against what will not move, you exhaust yourself with the pushing, and the thing remains exactly as it was. The weight you feel is not always the weight of the situation, but the weight of your refusal to let it be what it is. Discord fades when you stop demanding that life be different. The arguing you do inside yourself, the constant negotiation with reality, the endless list of how things should have gone or could still go if only the world would cooperate, all of it creates noise that drowns out the present moment. When you stop insisting, when you let go of the demand that circumstances rearrange themselves to suit you, the noise quiets. What remains is simpler, clearer, and it does not fight with you because you are no longer fighting with it. Acceptance is not weakness. It is the courage to face the unchanged. To look at what is and say, yes, this is what is here, this is what I am standing inside of, takes more strength than turning away or pretending or waiting for something easier to arrive. The unchanged will not soften because you wish it would, and facing it without flinching, without the armor of denial or the shield of false hope, is an act of bravery. You are not giving up when you accept. You are choosing to live inside the truth rather than hide from it. When you bow to what must be, no force can unsettle you. The winds will come, and they will be strong, and they will push against you. But if you are already aligned with what is, if you have already acknowledged the shape of things as they are, there is nothing left to topple. You are not rigid and therefore not brittle. You bend because you have stopped pretending you can stand unmoved. And in that bending is a kind of stability that rigidity can never offer. What must be will be, and your agreement with it does not make it happen but makes you whole inside its happening. The plans you made were beautiful in their way, but they were always just one possibility among infinite possibilities, and the one that arrived is the one that is real. The rest are shadows, and you do not need to carry them anymore. What is here now is enough to meet, enough to hold, enough to live inside without needing it to be anything other than itself. The resistance falls away not because you have been defeated but because you have chosen to stop fighting a battle that was never yours to win. The discord fades not because the world has changed but because you have stopped asking it to be something it is not. The peace that comes is not the peace of getting what you wanted but the peace of no longer needing life to obey you. And that peace is deeper, truer, and it does not depend on circumstances aligning in your favor. It depends only on your willingness to be here, exactly as things are. What fate decides, reason accepts. The unfolding of things follows patterns older and larger than your understanding, and when you meet them with your mind rather than your resistance, you find they do not need your approval to continue. Reason does not fight with what has already happened, does not argue with the shape of things as they are. It simply sees, acknowledges, and moves forward from that acknowledgement. The acceptance is not passive but clear, not defeated but awake. To trust the unfolding is to rest in harmony with nature. Everything moves according to principles you did not invent and cannot alter. And when you align yourself with that movement rather than stand against it, the struggle ceases. You are not separate from the unfolding but part of it, woven into the same fabric that holds stars and seasons and the turning of days. Trust does not mean knowing what comes next, but believing that what comes belongs to the same order that brought you here, and that order does not require your management. Nature grants calm to those who stop wrestling her design. The wrestling is what creates the friction, the exhaustion, the feeling that you are always pushing uphill against forces too great to overcome. When you stop, when you let your hands fall to your sides and your breath return to its natural rhythm, you discover that the design continues without your interference, and you continue within it, and the two are not at odds. The calm was always there, waiting beneath the noise of your struggle. All that happens serves the whole. Do not struggle against your part. You are one note in a composition too vast to hear in its entirety, and your note matters even though you cannot hear how it harmonizes with all the others. What arrives in your life, what passes through your days, is not random or cruel but connected to everything else in ways you cannot see. Your part is small, but it fits, and fighting it only creates discord where harmony was meant to be. To trust the grand order is to rest in it fully. The order does not ask for your belief or your approval, but when you give it your trust, when you stop needing to control every outcome and direct every circumstance, you find yourself held by something larger than yourself. The rest that comes is not the rest of doing nothing but the rest of knowing you do not carry everything, that the universe moves on without your constant intervention, and that you are safe inside that movement. The unfolding continues, moment after moment, event after event, and it does not pause to explain itself or justify its direction. You can stand beside it and watch, can feel yourself moving with it, can recognize that your presence here is not an accident or a mistake but a small necessary piece of something immense. The wrestling only hurts you, and the letting go only frees you, and the freedom is not emptiness but spaciousness, not loss but relief. What comes will come, and what goes will go, and your acceptance of this does not make you powerless but present, not passive but awake. The design holds you, and you hold your part within it, and the holding is gentle and does not require force. Nature does not fight with itself, and when you stop fighting with nature, you discover that you are never separate from it, never outside its care, never beyond its order. The calm that finds you is the calm that was always there, and the rest that fills you is the rest of knowing you belong exactly where you are. Every outcome aligns with a greater order whether you see it or not. What unfolds before you is not chaos pretending to be pattern, but pattern too vast for you to trace from where you stand. The threads connect in ways that stretch beyond your sight, weaving through time and circumstance in arrangements you cannot map, and your inability to see the whole does not mean the whole is absent. The order exists, steady and complete, regardless of your perception of it. The universe folds perfectly without your interference. It has been moving long before you arrived, and it will continue long after you are gone, and in all that time it has never needed your guidance. The stars do not wait for your permission to burn, and the seasons do not pause for your approval to turn. Everything that needs to happen happens, and your involvement is not what holds it all together. You are free to step back, to let things be as they are, to trust that the unfolding does not depend on your constant intervention. The world moves through cycles. Learn to move with them. What rises will fall, and what falls will rise again, and the rhythm repeats in patterns older than memory. You cannot stop the turning or speed it up or hold any moment still, but you can learn its pace, can feel its rhythm in your bones, can let yourself be carried by it rather than battered against it. The cycles do not ask for your resistance, only your recognition, and when you move with them instead of against them, the motion becomes smooth rather than jarring. Accepting fortune's rhythm frees you from its weight. Fortune changes because that is what fortune does, and your attempts to pin it down or predict it or control its fluctuations only bind you tighter to outcomes you cannot determine. When you accept that what comes will come and what goes will go, when you stop trying to hold fortune in place or bend it to your will, you discover that its changes no longer crush you. The weight lifts not because fortune has become kind, but because you have stopped demanding that it be anything other than what it is. What destiny arranges, patience understands. The understanding does not come from rushing or forcing or demanding immediate clarity. It comes from waiting, from watching, from letting time reveal what time reveals in its own span. Destiny unfolds at its own pace, and your impatience does not speed it. Your anxiety does not clarify it. Patience is the willingness to sit with uncertainty, to let the arrangement complete itself without your interference, to trust that what needs to be known will become known when the moment for knowing arrives. The greater order moves through everything, invisible but present, shaping outcomes in ways that serve purposes beyond your immediate understanding. You are inside that order, not outside it, not exempt from it, not burdened with the task of maintaining it. What happens happens because the conditions for it were met, because the universe is doing what the universe does, and your acceptance of this does not diminish you but places you correctly within the vastness. The cycles continue, and you continue with them, and the continuing is enough. Fortune shifts, and you shift with it, not as a leaf helpless in the wind, but as something that knows the wind is part of the weather and the weather is part of the world and the world moves as it must. Destiny arranges what it arranges, and patience meets that arrangement without panic, without the need to know everything at once, without the demand that life explain itself before it unfolds. The order is there, vast and intricate and complete, and you are held within it, and the holding is gentle even when the moments are hard. The universe folds perfectly, and you fold with it, and the folding is not collapse but continuation, not ending but becoming. The wise do not chase control, they cultivate calm. The pursuit of control pulls you forward into an endless striving, a constant reaching for something that slips away the moment you think you have grasped it. Wisdom does not live in that reaching, but in the stillness that comes when you stop, when you turn your attention inward and tend to the only garden that is truly yours. The calm you cultivate does not depend on circumstances bending to your will, does not wait for the world to arrange itself properly before it arrives. It grows in you, quiet and steady, regardless of what unfolds beyond you. Surrender is not defeat. It is partnership with what is. When you release your grip on how things should be and open your hands to how things are, you are not losing a battle but ending a war that was never meant to be fought. You step into alignment with reality rather than opposition to it, and in that alignment is a kind of cooperation, a joining of your movement with the movement of everything else. The partnership asks nothing of you except your willingness to be present, to work with what exists rather than against it. When you stop seeking mastery over fate, wisdom enters quietly. The noise of your ambition to control drowns out the softer voice of understanding, and only when that noise settles can you hear what has been waiting beneath it. Wisdom does not announce itself or demand attention. It simply appears in the space you create when you stop insisting that you must command every outcome, shape every circumstance, determine every result. The letting go is not abandonment but invitation, and what arrives in response is gentle and does not need to be chased. The universe rearranges endlessly. Your task is only to stand in harmony. Nothing stays where you place it, nothing remains as it was, and the constant reshuffling is not a flaw to be corrected but the nature of existence itself. You cannot stop the rearranging, cannot freeze time or hold patterns still, but you can find your place within the motion, can move with it rather than brace against it. The harmony is not about making things stay but about staying present as things change, about being flexible enough to shift when shifting is needed. To let go is to align with the greater symmetry of things. What you release does not fall into chaos but settles into place within an order you do not need to maintain. The symmetry exists without your effort, and your clinging only disrupts your ability to see it. When you let go, when you trust that the pattern holds even without your hands on it, you find yourself aligned with something larger and more beautiful than anything you could have arranged on your own. The alignment is effortless once you stop resisting it, natural once you stop trying to force it. The wise have learned to sit quietly in the middle of motion, to breathe evenly when the world spins, to remain soft when everything around them hardens. They do not cling to outcomes or demand explanations or insist that life follow a script they have written. They simply meet what comes with open eyes and steady hearts, knowing that their task is not to control but to witness, not to master but to participate. The calm they carry is not earned by winning battles against fate but by choosing not to fight those battles at all. Surrender brings you into partnership with the world as it is, and that partnership is gentler than the struggle ever was. Wisdom waits in the quiet spaces, in the moments when you stop reaching and simply rest, when you stop demanding and simply receive. The universe continues its endless rearranging, and you continue with it, not as its director but as its companion, and the companionship is enough. The symmetry holds everything, including you, and when you let go into it, you discover that you were never separate from it, never outside its grace, never beyond its care. The harmony is there, waiting for you to step into it, and the step requires only that you stop trying to be somewhere else. Release your grasp on outcomes. The river flows whether you will it or not. The current moves with its own force, shaped by the land and the rain and the pull of gravity, and your hands in the water do not change its direction. You can hold tight to what you want, can clench your fists around your hopes and expectations, but the river continues past you, indifferent to your grip. When you open your hands and let the water pass through your fingers, you discover that the flow was never yours to command, and the releasing does not stop the river but only stops your struggle against it. When you stop wrestling with what lies beyond reach, your strength returns to you. The energy you spend fighting with things you cannot change is not lost to the universe but lost to yourself, drained away in battles that have no victors. When you recognize what is beyond your reach and let it stay there, when you stop extending yourself into spaces where you have no power, the strength that was scattered comes back to you. It gathers in the places where it can be used, where your hands can actually shape something, where your presence makes a difference. Desire binds you to storms. Surrender frees you to drift in calm waters. The wanting pulls you into turbulence, into the churning place where outcomes matter too much and disappointment waits around every corner. You tie yourself to results you cannot guarantee, and every shift in the wind becomes a threat to your peace. When you surrender the need for things to go a certain way, when you release your attachment to specific outcomes, you find yourself in quieter waters. The calm was always there, just beyond the storm of your own making. Release is not the end of caring, but the end of clinging. You can still value what matters without wrapping your identity around it, can still hope without demanding, can still love without possessing. The clinging is what creates the suffering, the desperate need to hold on so tightly that your hands ache and your heart cannot rest. When you care without clinging, you remain present to what is beautiful and meaningful, but you do not collapse when it changes or leaves or becomes something other than what you wished. The hand that opens to release discovers it was never empty. What you thought you would lose by letting go was never truly held in the first place, and the opening of your hand reveals that you have always carried something deeper, something that does not depend on outcomes or circumstances or the cooperation of the world. The emptiness you feared is not emptiness at all but space, room for something true to settle, room for your own presence to return to you undivided. The river continues its motion, and you continue yours, and the two are not separate even when they feel that way. Your strength is not measured by how much you can control, but by how well you can meet what you cannot control without falling apart. The storms will come, and they will be fierce, but you do not have to bind yourself to them. You can let the desire pass through you without letting it define you, can feel the longing without letting it rule you. The releasing is not a single act but a practice, a returning again and again to the understanding that your peace does not live in getting what you want but in wanting what is. The clinging only exhausts you, and the opening only frees you, and the freedom is not absence but presence, not loss but clarity. What you care about can still matter, can still move you, can still shape the choices you make, but it does not have to own you. The hand that opens is still a hand, still capable, still strong, but it is no longer a fist, no longer closed around something it was never meant to hold forever. The calm waters are there, waiting for you to stop fighting your way toward them and simply let yourself drift into them. The releasing brings you there, gentle and unhurried, and what you find is not emptiness but rest. What you fear to lose often was never fully yours. The grip you have on things is lighter than you believe, more temporary, more borrowed. What you hold came to you through circumstance and chance, through the meeting of conditions that you did not create and cannot maintain forever. The fear of losing it tightens your hands, but the tightening does not make it more yours, does not secure it against the natural movement of things. What belongs to you in the deepest sense cannot be taken, and what can be taken was always passing through. What the universe withholds was never yours to lose. The things that do not come, the outcomes that do not arrive, the hopes that remain unfulfilled, these were never in your possession. You cannot lose what you never held, and the absence of something is not the same as its theft. The universe does not take from you when it withholds, does not deny you what was rightfully yours. It simply moves according to patterns that do not center on your wanting, and what does not come was never part of your path in the way you imagined. Let things depart as naturally as they came. The arrival was effortless, unbidden, a gift of timing and circumstance, and the departure deserves the same ease. You did not force things into being, and you cannot force them to stay. The leaving is part of the same cycle as the coming, and when you let it happen without resistance, without clinging or bargaining or pretending, you honor the completeness of the cycle. What came freely can leave freely, and the freedom in both directions is what allows anything to be real. Let what must pass, pass with grace. The passing will happen whether you grant it permission or not, but the way you meet it shapes what remains inside you afterward. You can fight it, can make the leaving heavy with bitterness and regret, or you can stand beside it with quiet acknowledgement, with the recognition that this is how things are, that endings are woven into the fabric of existence as surely as beginnings. The grace is not for the thing that is leaving but for you, for the part of you that will continue after the departure. What departs leaves space for something new to arrive. The emptiness you feel is not permanent but transitional, not an ending but a clearing. When you stop filling that space with grief over what is gone, when you stop trying to reconstruct what has already dissolved, you discover that the space itself is alive with possibility. What comes next cannot enter if you are still clutching what came before, and the releasing is what makes room for the new shape your life will take. The things you feared to lose are already gone or will be gone, and the universe holds what it holds without consulting your preferences. The natural rhythm of coming and going does not pause for your comfort, does not wait for you to be ready. It simply moves, and you move with it or you exhaust yourself trying to stand still in a current that never stops. The grace you bring to the passing is not about making it beautiful but about making it bearable, about letting your heart soften instead of harden, about trusting that the space left behind is not emptiness but openness. What arrives next may be different from what you wanted, may surprise you or challenge you or ask something of you that you did not expect, but it can only arrive if you let go of what must go. The cycle continues, and you continue with it, and the continuing is not loss but transformation. What departs takes something with it, and what arrives brings something with it, and you are the constant presence through which both movements flow. The fear of losing keeps you tense and small, but the grace of letting go opens you to the fullness of what is always becoming. Wear each moment lightly, it never truly belongs to you. What you experience now passes through you like breath, arriving and departing without asking permission, without settling permanently. You can hold it gently while it is here, can notice its texture and weight, but the holding is temporary because the moment itself is temporary. When you try to possess it, to claim it as something fixed and permanent, you only create friction against its natural movement. The lightness comes from knowing that nothing stays, and the knowing allows you to be present without grasping. You can meet tomorrow only by releasing the weight of yesterday. What has already happened carries a heaviness when you refuse to set it down, when you drag it forward into hours that have their own shape and their own needs. Yesterday had its place, and that place is behind you now, and the energy you spend carrying it is energy that belongs to this moment. Tomorrow will ask things of you that you cannot give if your hands are full of what is already finished. The releasing is not forgetting but choosing where your attention lives. The past cannot be recalled, only the present can be lived. What happened has solidified into something unchangeable, beyond the reach of your wishes or regrets, and no amount of revisiting will reshape it. The present is where your life actually occurs, where your choices have meaning, where your presence makes a difference. When you spend your now trying to rework your then, you miss the only time that is truly available to you. The past is a story you tell, but the present is the breath you take, and only one of them is real in this moment. Gratitude eases the loss of what was never promised. Nothing comes with a guarantee of permanence, and when you recognize this, the leaving becomes less bitter. What you had was a gift, not a contract, and the gratitude for having had it at all softens the sharp edge of its absence. The universe promised you nothing, and yet it gave you something, and the something mattered even though it did not last. The gratitude does not erase the loss but makes space beside it for something gentler. The calm spirit sees loss not as harm, but as transformation. What leaves does not wound you unless you insist that it should have stayed, unless you fight against the natural movement of things coming and going. The calm sees that what was has become what is, that the shape of your life has changed but not collapsed, that transformation is not destruction but continuation in a different form. The leaving makes way for something else, clears space for a new arrangement, and the arrangement is not better or worse but simply what comes next. Each moment arrives light and leaves light, and you are the space through which it moves. Yesterday had its weight, but you do not need to carry it into today, do not need to let it press down on hours that have not yet asked anything of you. The present is here, simple and unadorned, asking only that you notice it, that you meet it with whatever you have now rather than what you had then. The past lives in memory, but memory is not the same as presence, and presence is where your life unfolds. What was never promised cannot be demanded in its leaving, and the gratitude for what was given, however briefly, is a kind of grace that makes the loss bearable. The calm spirit does not pretend that loss is easy or that transformation does not sometimes ache, but it knows that the aching is part of living, that change is the constant pulse of existence, and that harm and transformation are not the same thing. What you lose becomes part of what you were, and what you are becomes part of what you are, and what you are continues forward, lighter when you let it, heavier only when you insist on carrying what has already been set down. The moments come, and they go, and you remain, wearing each one lightly, releasing each one when its time has passed, standing in the present with open hands and a steady heart. Even pain, when accepted, becomes less sharp. The hurt itself does not disappear, but the edge that cuts deepest is often the edge of your resistance, your insistence that the pain should not be here, that you should not have to feel it. When you stop fighting its presence, when you allow it to exist without adding the suffering of rejection to the suffering of sensation, something shifts. The pain remains, but it no longer has the power that comes from your struggle against it. The acceptance does not make it welcome, but it makes it bearable. Each loss reminds you of what truly remains, your reason, your calm. What departs takes with it only what was always temporary, always subject to change, and what is left is what was never dependent on circumstance. Your ability to think clearly, to see what is real, to meet the moment with steadiness, these do not leave when other things leave. They remain constant beneath the shifting surface, and each loss reveals them again, reminds you that they are the foundation that holds when everything else gives way. To let go is to return to balance. The clinging tips you forward, pulls you off center, creates a lean that cannot be sustained. When you release what you have been holding too tightly, you settle back into equilibrium, back into the place where your weight is evenly distributed and you can stand without strain. The balance was always there, waiting for you to stop disrupting it with your grip. The return is effortless once you decide to let it happen. The more you release, the lighter your spirit becomes. Each thing you set down is weight you no longer carry, and the accumulation of releasing is the gradual unburdening of a spirit that was never meant to hold everything. You do not lose yourself by letting go. You find yourself, discover the shape you have beneath all the things you have been clutching. The lightness is not emptiness but spaciousness, not absence but freedom, and it grows with each release until you can move through your days without the constant drag of unnecessary weight. Life breathes in cycles. What you release, it renews. The exhale is not the end of breath but the necessary movement that makes the inhale possible. What you let go creates the space for what comes next, and the cycle repeats endlessly, loss and gain woven together in a rhythm that sustains rather than depletes. The renewal does not erase what was released, but it fills the space with something living, something that belongs to this moment rather than the last. The breathing continues, and you continue with it, and the continuing is not static but alive with motion. The pain you accept loses its ability to control you, and what remains after loss is more solid than what was lost. The balance returns when you stop tipping yourself forward with desperate grasping, and the lightness comes not from having nothing but from carrying only what is real. Life does not stop giving because you stop taking, does not stop offering because you stop demanding. It breathes in and out, and you breathe with it, and the rhythm is enough. What you release does not vanish into nothing but dissolves back into the larger pattern, and what renews comes from that same pattern, shaped by the same forces that shaped everything before it. The cycle holds you, and you move within it, and the movement is not loss but exchange, not ending but transformation. Your reason remains steady when everything else shakes, and your calm remains accessible when everything else storms. And these are the things that cannot be taken from you because they are not possessions but qualities, not objects but capacities. The more you release, the more you discover that what you thought you needed was only extra weight, and what you actually need has been with you all along. The spirit grows lighter not by becoming less but by becoming more itself, unburdened by the accumulation of things that were never meant to be carried forever. Life renews what you release, and the renewal is not a reward but a natural consequence, the inevitable result of making space where space is needed. The breathing continues, in and out, loss and gain, releasing and receiving, and you are part of that breathing, held by it, sustained by it, moving with it through all the cycles that make up a life. When you cease to fight the current, you begin to float. The water moves with its own force, and your resistance only pulls you under, only exhausts you with the effort of swimming against what cannot be stopped. When you stop fighting, when you let your body soften and trust the water to hold you, you discover that floating was always possible. The current carries you whether you struggle or not, but only when you stop struggling does the carrying become gentle. The leaf does not command the wind, yet it floats gracefully when it lets go. It has no say in where the wind blows or how strong it becomes, and yet it moves through the air with an ease that comes from complete surrender. The grace is not in controlling the direction but in releasing the need to control it, in trusting that the movement itself is enough. The leaf does not worry about where it will land. It simply drifts, light and unburdened, held by forces larger than itself. Allow each event to pass through you like wind through an open field. The field does not try to capture the wind or redirect it or make it stay. It simply stands open, and the wind moves through it, and when the wind has passed, the field remains unchanged, unburdened by what moved across it. You can be that field, can let events arrive and depart without trying to hold them or reshape them or make them mean more than they do. The passing through is enough, and your openness is what allows it to happen without damage. Let each moment pass as clouds do, shapeless, silent, unpossessed. The clouds drift across the sky without effort, without intention, changing form as they move, dissolving and reforming in patterns that have no permanence. They do not belong to anyone, and no one can claim them or keep them. Your moments are the same, arriving in shapes you did not design, departing before you can fully grasp them, and your attempts to possess them only create suffering where there could be simple witnessing. The sky does not cling to the storm once it passes. The thunder fades, and the rain stops, and the sky returns to its clarity without holding on to the turbulence that moved through it. There is no residue, no lingering insistence that the storm should have been different or should not have come at all. The sky simply holds what is present and releases what has passed, and its peace comes from that perpetual letting go. The current continues its motion, indifferent and unhurried, and when you stop fighting it, you discover that it was never your enemy. The wind moves where it moves, and the leaf that releases its grip on the branch finds freedom in the falling. Each event that passes through you leaves you unchanged if you let it pass, if you do not try to capture it or make it stay longer than its natural span. The moments drift like clouds, and you can watch them without needing to own them, can notice their shapes without insisting they hold those shapes forever. The storm will come, and it will be fierce, and it will pass, and the sky that remains after is the same sky that was there before, unmarked by what moved across it. You can be that sky, vast and open, capable of holding everything without being defined by anything. The floating happens when you stop insisting on swimming, when you trust that the water knows how to hold you. The grace comes when you release your grip and let the wind carry you where it carries you. The openness allows everything to pass through without resistance, and the passing is not loss but the natural rhythm of existence. The clouds remind you that nothing has to stay to have mattered, that impermanence is not a flaw but the way things are, and your peace comes from meeting that truth without fighting it. The sky remains, and you remain, and what passes between you is simply what was always going to pass. The sea does not regret its waves. Each one rises and falls according to forces beyond intention, shaped by wind and moon and the pull of distant tides, and when they crash or recede, the sea does not mourn their passing or wish they had been different. The waves are simply what the sea does, part of its nature, and there is no judgment in their coming or going. The sea remains whole regardless of what happens on its surface, and it carries no burden of regret for movements it did not choose. No wave can harm the deep waters that lie beneath. The surface churns and froths, rises in peaks and falls into troughs, but far below, the water is still, untouched by the turbulence above. What happens on the surface cannot reach down into the depths, cannot disturb the quiet that exists in the places where light does not penetrate and storms do not stir. You are like that water, with depths that remain calm regardless of what moves across your days. The calm mind watches events rise and fall without claiming them. Each event arrives like a wave, crests, and dissolves back into the larger pattern, and the mind that is calm does not reach out to grab them or push them away. It simply observes, notices the shape and movement, acknowledges the presence without declaring ownership. The watching is enough, and the lack of claiming keeps the mind clear, uncluttered by the accumulation of things that were never meant to be held. Being still does more than striving against the inevitable. The inevitable will happen whether you exhaust yourself fighting it or stand quietly and let it pass. The stillness is not inaction but recognition, the understanding that some things cannot be changed by effort, and the energy you save by not fighting is energy that remains with you, available for what actually needs your attention. The striving only wears you down without altering the outcome. Rest comes from agreement with reality, not from conquest of it. You cannot force the world into submission, cannot bend existence to match your preferences through sheer determination. The rest you seek lives in the moment when you stop trying to conquer what is and simply agree to meet it as it stands. The agreement is not defeat but clarity, not surrender but alignment, and in that alignment is a peace that conquest could never provide. The sea continues its motion, wave after wave, and it holds no regret for any of them. The deep waters remain undisturbed by the chaos at the surface, remain whole and quiet and vast regardless of what storms pass overhead. Your mind can be that calm observer, watching the rise and fall without needing to intervene, without claiming ownership of every event that moves through your awareness. The stillness you cultivate does more for you than any amount of striving against what cannot be stopped, and the rest that fills you comes not from winning battles but from ceasing to fight them. Reality moves as it moves, shaped by forces you did not create and cannot control, and your agreement with it is not weakness but wisdom. The waves will rise, and they will fall, and the sea will remain the sea, and you will remain yourself, and the remaining is enough. The depths are always there, always calm, always untouched by the surface turbulence, and you can return to them whenever the waves feel too violent, whenever the surface becomes too much. The watching is a kind of stillness, and the stillness is a kind of rest, and the rest is what you have been searching for all along, not in the conquest of reality but in the simple agreement to let it be what it is while you remain what you are, deep and calm and whole beneath the passing storms. Your peace depends not on the world's stillness, but on your willingness to release it. The world will never be still, will never pause its motion or quiet its noise or arrange itself into perfect calm. If you wait for that stillness before you allow yourself peace, you will wait forever. The peace you can have lives in your willingness to stop demanding that the world cooperate, to let go of the need for everything to be settled before you settle. The releasing is what creates the space where peace can exist, and that space is always available to you regardless of what is happening beyond you. Peace is learning to rest among uncertainty. The not knowing will always be there, surrounding you, pressing in from all sides, and you cannot eliminate it no matter how much you plan or prepare or try to predict what comes next. When you learn to rest inside that uncertainty, when you stop treating it as a threat that must be resolved before you can breathe easily, you discover a kind of peace that does not depend on having answers. The rest is not the absence of uncertainty but the acceptance of it. The wise heart finds stillness in the presence of uncertainty. It does not wait for clarity to arrive before it becomes still, does not postpone its calm until everything is known. The stillness exists alongside the not knowing, coexists with it, makes room for it without being disturbed by it. The heart that is wise understands that certainty is rare and brief, and stillness that depends on certainty is fragile and fleeting. The stillness that can hold uncertainty is deeper, more reliable, more true. The storm outside is nothing compared to a mind at peace within. The external chaos has its power, its noise and violence, but it cannot reach the place inside you that has chosen peace unless you open the door and invite it in. A mind at peace does not deny the storm or pretend it is not happening, but it remains steady in its own space, unshaken by what rages beyond its borders. The storm will do what storms do, and the mind will do what it has chosen to do, and the two are separate. Nothing external can breach a heart anchored in acceptance. The anchoring is what keeps you steady when everything around you shifts and shakes. When your heart is rooted in acceptance of what is, when it has stopped fighting reality and started meeting it with open acknowledgement, there is no external force strong enough to dislodge it. The world can change, circumstances can worsen, outcomes can disappoint, and still the heart remains anchored because its stability does not come from favorable conditions but from internal agreement with truth. The world moves in its restless way, uncertain and unpredictable, and your peace does not wait for it to stop. The releasing is what frees you, the willingness to let the world be what it is without needing it to be what you wish. The rest you find among uncertainty is not the rest of resolution but the rest of acceptance, the understanding that you can be at peace even when you do not know what comes next. The wise heart has learned this, has stopped waiting for the future to become clear before it allows itself stillness. The storm continues outside, and it may be fierce and loud, but inside there is a place that remains untouched, a quiet that exists regardless of external noise. That place is not fragile or dependent on circumstance. It is anchored in something deeper than the shifting surface of events. Nothing that happens out there can reach in here unless you let it, unless you decide that your peace depends on the world behaving itself. The heart that is anchored does not need the world to cooperate, does not need certainty or stillness or perfect conditions. It simply accepts what is, and in that acceptance finds a stability that nothing external can shake. The peace is yours to create, not by controlling the world but by releasing your grip on it, not by eliminating uncertainty but by learning to rest within it. The stillness is always available, waiting beneath the noise, and you can return to it whenever you choose, not by changing what is outside but by accepting it fully and allowing your heart to remain steady in the midst of it all. You are not exiled by circumstance, only by resistance to it. The circumstances themselves do not push you out or lock you away from your own peace. They simply exist, neutral and indifferent, and it is your resistance that creates the feeling of being cast out, of being separated from where you belong. When you fight against what is, you exile yourself from the present moment, from the only place where you can actually live. The circumstance is just what is happening. The exile is what you create by refusing to be where you are. Your peace is unshaken when you cease bargaining with life. The constant negotiation, the endless attempts to trade this for that, to promise better behavior in exchange for better outcomes, all of it keeps you in a state of tension. When you stop bargaining, when you let go of the belief that you can make deals with existence, you discover a peace that does not depend on getting what you want. The peace exists in the absence of negotiation, in the quiet that comes when you stop trying to arrange terms with a universe that does not negotiate. What comes will come, meet it with a calm soul. The future unfolds according to patterns you cannot see and conditions you did not set, and your worry does not prepare you for it any more than your calm would leave you unprepared. When you meet what arrives with steadiness rather than panic, with acceptance rather than resistance, you find that you are capable of handling it regardless of what it is. The calm soul does not need to know what is coming to be ready for it. When you no longer insist on control, clarity arises naturally. The striving to control clouds your vision, fills your mind with plans and contingencies and the constant effort to manage outcomes. When you release that insistence, when you accept that much of life will unfold without your direction, the fog clears. What you could not see while you were struggling becomes visible in the stillness. And the clarity is not something you have to create, but something that emerges when you stop obscuring it with your need to control. The mind that accepts gains mastery unknown to those who grasp. The grasping creates desperation, and desperation is the opposite of mastery. When you accept what is, when you meet reality without trying to force it into a different shape, you gain a kind of command that comes not from controlling external things but from being unshaken by them. The mastery is internal, quiet, and it does not depend on making the world obey you. It depends only on your willingness to be at peace with what the world does. The resistance is what exiles you, not the circumstance itself, and when you stop resisting, you find yourself back where you belong, present and whole. The bargaining keeps you tense and uncertain, always waiting to see if your offers will be accepted, and the peace comes when you stop making offers and simply live. What will come is already on its way, shaped by forces beyond your influence, and the calm with which you meet it is the only preparation that matters. The clarity you seek does not require effort but release, not more control but less insistence on it. The mind that accepts is not passive or defeated but powerful in a way that grasping can never achieve, because its power does not depend on favorable outcomes or cooperative circumstances. It depends only on the steadiness of acceptance, on the willingness to meet what is without demanding that it be different. The mastery of acceptance is subtle and deep, and it belongs to those who have learned that trying to grasp everything only leaves your hands empty, while opening your hands reveals that you were never without what you needed. Life does not bargain, does not negotiate, does not pause to consider your terms, and when you stop trying to make it do so, you discover a peace that was always waiting for you. The calm soul is not the one that has arranged perfect circumstances, but the one that has stopped needing them to be perfect. The clarity is there, beneath the striving, and the mastery is there, beneath the grasping, and both are yours the moment you decide to accept rather than resist, to be present rather than exiled by your own refusal to meet what is. The winds shift as they please. Be the stillness that watches, not the sail that resists. The wind moves without asking permission, changing direction according to forces you cannot trace, and the sail that fights against it only tears itself apart. When you become the stillness instead, when you position yourself as the observer rather than the thing being pushed and pulled, you discover a steadiness that the wind cannot touch. The watching does not mean you are uninvolved, only that you are not at war with what you cannot change. The night does not ask for the sun's return. It rests in what is. The darkness settles without complaint, without reaching toward the light that will eventually come. It simply exists in its own time, complete and unhurried, trusting that the cycle will turn when the cycle turns. There is no impatience in the night, no resistance to its own nature, and in that lack of resistance is a kind of rest that comes from being fully present to what the moment holds. Accept the turning of events as the earth accepts the seasons. The earth does not protest when winter arrives, does not cling to summer when autumn begins its work. It receives each season as it comes, allows each one to do what it does, and moves through the cycle without resistance. The turning is natural, inevitable, and the earth's acceptance of it is not passive but participatory, a willingness to be part of the rhythm rather than stand against it. The flame flickers less when protected by acceptance. The constant buffeting of resistance makes the flame unstable, makes it dance wildly and threaten to go out. When you accept what surrounds the flame, when you stop fighting every gust that comes near it, the flame steadies. It does not go out but burns more evenly, more calmly, held in a space that does not amplify every disturbance into a crisis. Let your heart be as the moon, quietly accepting every phase. The moon does not resist its waning or cling to its fullness. It moves through its phases with silent grace, each one complete in itself, each one temporary, each one part of a larger pattern. Your heart can learn this same acceptance, can allow itself to change and shift and pass through different states without declaring any of them wrong or trying to hold on to the ones that feel best. The phases are not failures or successes, but simply the natural movement of being alive. The winds will shift, and they will shift again, and your stillness remains regardless of their direction. The night holds its darkness without demanding light, and the earth turns through its seasons without protest, and the flame burns steadier when it is not constantly battered by resistance. The moon moves through its phases, full and new and everything between, and it does so with a quiet acceptance that makes each phase beautiful in its own way. You can be that stillness, that rest, that acceptance, that steady flame, that heart that knows every phase belongs. The turning of events is not something that happens to you but something you are part of, woven into the same fabric that holds seasons and tides and the movement of celestial bodies. When you accept the turning, you stop feeling separate from it. Stop feeling like you are being acted upon by forces hostile to your peace. You become part of the rhythm, and the rhythm holds you, and the holding is gentle even when the changes are difficult. The stillness watches, and the night rests, and the earth receives, and the flame steadies, and the moon accepts, and all of it is available to you when you stop resisting and start allowing. The phases of your heart are not problems to solve but movements to witness, and the witnessing is enough. The acceptance protects you not by keeping difficulty away but by keeping you steady as difficulty passes through, and the steadiness is what makes everything bearable. The calm mind watches without grasping, without fear. It sees what arrives and what departs, notices the shape of things as they pass, but it does not reach out to hold them or pull back to avoid them. The watching is pure, uncomplicated by the need to possess or the urge to escape. Fear comes from believing you must control what you see, and grasping comes from believing you can. When both fall away, what remains is simple observation, clear and undisturbed. To rest is to trust the design unseen. You cannot see the full pattern, cannot trace all the threads that weave together to create what is, but the design exists whether you see it or not. When you trust that there is order beneath the apparent chaos, that things unfold according to principles larger than your understanding, you can rest. The rest does not require proof or comprehension, only the willingness to believe that you are held by something that does not need your management. The universe moves without haste. Allow yourself to move the same. There is no urgency in the turning of stars or the changing of seasons. Things happen when the conditions for them are right, not a moment sooner, and the universe does not rush itself to meet deadlines it never set. When you allow yourself the same unhurried pace, when you stop treating every moment as a race against time, you align yourself with the natural rhythm of existence. The moving without haste is not slowness but rightness, not delay but timing. When you let go, life begins to move through you, not against you. The resistance creates friction, makes you feel like you are constantly battling against the current of your own existence. When you release that resistance, when you open yourself to what is rather than brace yourself against it, life flows through you like water through an open channel. You become part of its movement rather than an obstacle to it, and the flow is smooth rather than turbulent. The uncontrollable no longer troubles the soul that has made peace with it. What you cannot control will always be there, vast and surrounding, shaping your days in ways you cannot predict or prevent. When you make peace with this, when you accept that most of existence lies beyond your influence, the troubling stops. The uncontrollable is no longer a threat but simply a fact, and facts do not disturb the soul that has learned to live with them. The calm mind continues its watching, clear and steady, and the grasping falls away because there is nothing to hold, and the fear falls away because there is nothing to control. The trust settles in, quiet and unforced, and the rest comes naturally from that trust. The universe moves at its own pace, vast and unhurried, and you move with it, no longer racing, no longer urgent, simply present in the unfolding. Life flows through you when you stop blocking it, when you open yourself to its movement and allow it to pass without resistance. The uncontrollable surrounds you, and it no longer matters because you have made peace with it, have accepted that your power lies not in controlling it but in choosing how you meet it. The watching is enough, and the trusting is enough, and the unhurried movement is enough, and the letting go is enough. The soul that has made peace is not the soul that has won every battle but the soul that has stopped fighting the battles that cannot be won. The design holds you, seen or unseen, and the holding is enough. The universe knows its own timing, and when you move with that timing rather than against it, you discover that you were never meant to rush, never meant to force, never meant to control everything that passes through your awareness. Life moves through you, and you move through life, and the two are not separate, not in conflict, but part of the same continuous flow. The uncontrollable is simply what it is, and your peace with it is what allows you to remain whole in its presence, unbothered by what you cannot change, unshaken by what you cannot predict, steady in the knowledge that your calm does not depend on making the world obey you but on allowing yourself to be present within it exactly as it is. Even within uncertainty, your reason can be still as a mountain. The not knowing swirls around you, questions without answers, futures without clarity, and yet your capacity to think clearly, to see what is real, remains unmoved by the chaos. The mountain does not shake when storms pass over it, does not crumble when winds howl across its peaks. Your reason is that mountain, solid and present, capable of steadiness even when everything around it is uncertain. The stillness is not absence of thought but presence of clarity. To trust the unfolding is to sleep without resistance. Sleep comes easily to those who have let go of the day, who are not still wrestling with what happened or worrying about what will happen. When you trust that things are unfolding as they must, that tomorrow will arrive whether you spend tonight anxious or peaceful, you can release yourself into rest. The sleep that comes from trust is deep and restorative, unburdened by the tension of trying to control what lies beyond this moment. When you no longer resist the day, the night welcomes you gently. The resistance you carry through your hours creates a hardness that makes rest difficult, makes the transition from waking to sleeping feel like another battle. When you meet the day as it is, when you stop fighting what it brings, you arrive at evening softened, ready to be received by the quiet. The night does not have to overcome your resistance because you bring none, and the welcome is gentle because you are gentle in your approach. Fate writes the script. Your virtue decides your tone. What happens is not yours to choose. The events that arrive and the circumstances that shape your days follow patterns you did not author. But the way you meet them, the quality you bring to your responses, the character you embody as you move through what fate has written, these belong to you entirely. The script may be fixed, but your tone can be calm or frantic, graceful or bitter, and that choice makes all the difference. What is unchosen still offers a path to peace. The things you did not select, the outcomes you did not want, the circumstances you would never have arranged for yourself, all of these can still be met with peace if you are willing to find it. Peace does not require that everything be chosen, does not demand that life match your preferences. It exists in the space where you accept what was not chosen and discover that acceptance itself is a kind of choosing, a decision to be at peace regardless of how things came to be. The uncertainty remains, vast and surrounding, and your reason remains still within it, unshaken by what it cannot know. The trust allows you to rest, releases you from the exhausting work of resistance, and the sleep that comes is the sleep of one who has stopped fighting. The day passes, and you pass through it without the hardness that comes from constant battle, and when night arrives, it receives you easily because you have made yourself easy to receive. Fate continues to write, and you continue to choose your tone, continue to decide what quality of presence you will bring to the script you did not author. What was not chosen is still your life, still the ground you stand on, still capable of holding your peace if you allow it. The mountain stands unmoved, and your reason can stand the same way, steady in its clarity even when clarity about outcomes is impossible. The unfolding continues whether you trust it or not, but the trust is what allows you to rest within it, to move through your days without the constant strain of trying to force different outcomes. The night is always gentle to those who come to it gently, always welcoming to those who have stopped resisting. Your virtue is yours to choose, your tone is yours to set, and that choosing is enough power for any life. What was not chosen still belongs to your experience, still shapes your days, and within it is the same opportunity for peace that exists in what you would have chosen, if only you are willing to see it. The day bends to no will, yet it always begins anew. No matter how you spent yesterday, no matter what you demanded or what you lost, the dawn arrives without considering your wishes. It comes because that is what dawn does, indifferent to your plans, immune to your disappointments. And in that indifference is a kind of grace, the promise that each beginning is fresh, unburdened by what came before, offering itself without condition or judgment. Some paths are not yours to walk, and that is mercy in disguise. The roads that close before you, the directions that become impossible, the futures that dissolve before they can begin, these are not punishments but protections. What you cannot have is often what would have exhausted you, broken you, led you into places where you could not remain whole. The closing of a path is the opening of your true way, and the mercy is visible only when you stop mourning what was never meant to be yours. The universe carries you whether you struggle or rest. Your thrashing does not speed the journey, and your stillness does not slow it. The carrying continues regardless, steady and unhurried, moving you through time and space according to patterns far older than your resistance. When you recognize this, when you understand that you are being carried either way, the choice becomes simple: struggle and arrive exhausted, or rest and arrive whole. To surrender is to float within the greater rhythm of things. The rhythm was there before you, will be there after you, and it continues now whether you join it or fight against it. When you surrender, you are not giving up but giving in, allowing yourself to be part of the pulse that moves through everything. The floating is effortless once you stop trying to swim in a different direction, once you trust that the rhythm knows where it is going even when you do not. Serenity awaits where effort ends and understanding quietly remains. The striving exhausts you, the constant pushing and managing and trying to force outcomes drains everything you have, and still the world moves as it will. When the effort ends, when you finally set down the burden of trying to control what cannot be controlled, what remains is understanding, quiet and clear. The understanding does not need to do anything, does not need to fix or change or improve. It simply sees, and in that seeing is a serenity that effort could never produce. The day begins again, and it will begin tomorrow, and the beginning is not yours to command, but it is always yours to meet. The paths that are not yours fall away, and the falling is kindness even when it feels like loss. The universe carries you through it all, through the beginnings and the endings, through the open paths and the closed ones, and the carrying does not stop when you struggle or start when you rest. It simply is, constant and sure. The surrender is not defeat but alignment, the decision to move with the greater rhythm instead of against it, and the movement is smooth when you stop resisting it. The effort can end, and when it does, the serenity is there, waiting in the quiet place where understanding has always lived. You do not have to force anything, do not have to bend the day to your will or walk paths that were never meant for you. You only have to let yourself be carried, let yourself float, let yourself rest in the knowledge that the rhythm holds you and the understanding is enough. The mercy reveals itself slowly, in the closing of doors that would have led you astray, in the beginning of days that ask nothing of you except your presence. The serenity is not something you earn through effort but something you discover when effort finally ends, and what remains is simple and true and does not need anything more than what already is. The world's rhythm is not yours to set, only to move within. The tempo was established long before you arrived, built into the structure of things, woven through the fabric of existence. You cannot speed it or slow it, cannot change its pattern to suit your preferences. What you can do is find your place within it, learn its pulse, move with it instead of against it. The moving within is not confinement but participation, not limitation but belonging. Life's unfolding asks only your cooperation, never your control. The events that come do not wait for your permission or follow your direction. They arrive according to their own logic, shaped by conditions you did not create. What life asks of you is not mastery but willingness, not command but cooperation. When you offer that cooperation, when you work with what is rather than demand what is not, the unfolding becomes easier for you to bear. The universe arranges all things. Calmly play your allotted part. The arrangement is vast and intricate, each piece connected to countless others in ways you cannot fully see. Your part is small within that vastness, and it is enough to play it calmly, to do what is yours to do without straining to do what belongs to others or to forces beyond your reach. The calm playing is not resignation but presence, not smallness but rightness. The course of things is wiser than your impatience. What delays feels like denial, and what takes time feels like waste. But the timing of things follows patterns deeper than your urgency. The course knows what you do not, moves according to necessities you cannot perceive. Your impatience does not make you wiser than the unfolding. It only makes you suffer more while the unfolding continues at its own pace. Each occurrence invites calm acceptance or needless turmoil. Choose well. What happens presents you with a choice, not about the event itself but about your response to it. You can meet it with acceptance, with the understanding that this is what is here now, or you can create turmoil by insisting it should be different. The turmoil is needless because it changes nothing except your own peace, and the choosing is always yours. When you yield to what must be, life softens its edge. The hardness you feel is often the hardness of your resistance meeting the immovable fact of reality. When you yield, when you stop pushing against what will not move, the edge that was cutting you dulls. Life does not become easier in its circumstances, but it becomes softer in its impact because you're no longer throwing yourself against it with full force. What happens belongs to nature's law. Meet it without complaint. The events that unfold are not violations of how things should be but expressions of how things are. They follow laws older and larger than your preferences, and your complaint does not alter them. When you meet what happens without complaint, you're not pretending to like it but acknowledging its place in the natural order, accepting that it belongs to the way existence operates. Calm grows wherever argument with fate ends. The arguing keeps you agitated, keeps you caught in a battle you cannot win against outcomes that have already been determined. When you stop arguing, when you let fate be what it is without contesting it, the calm has room to grow. It starts small, a quietness in one corner of your awareness, and spreads as you continue to refuse the argument. The rhythm moves, and you move within it, and the moving is enough. Life unfolds, and you cooperate, and the cooperation is simpler than the control you are trying to maintain. The universe arranges, and you play your part, and the part is exactly the right size. The course continues, wiser than your impatience, and the patience you bring to it is what allows you to see its wisdom eventually. Each occurrence comes, and you choose your response, and the choosing of acceptance over turmoil is the choosing of peace. The yielding softens what felt hard, and the meeting without complaint allows you to be present without the exhausting work of protesting. The argument with fate drains you and changes nothing, and the ending of that argument is where calm begins to take root and grow. What belongs to nature's law will continue regardless, and your meeting of it can be graceful or bitter, calm or chaotic, and that difference is the only power you truly have. The allotted part is yours, and playing it calmly is enough. The wise traveler welcomes each terrain without protest, moving through valleys and over hills with the same quietness, the same steadiness, never asking the path to be other than it is. There is no struggle in this movement, only a gentle recognition that what unfolds is what unfolds, and the walking continues regardless of slope or surface. The wise do not command the world, they harmonize with it, finding their place within the larger rhythm rather than insisting the rhythm shift to suit them. This is not submission but a kind of grace, a way of being that allows the world to move as it must while they move with it, neither forcing nor fleeing. The wise mind treats uncertainty as familiar ground, neither startled by it nor made anxious in its presence. There is no need to grasp for what cannot yet be known, no urgency to resolve what remains unresolved. The unknown is simply another country through which one passes, and it holds no more threat than the known once held when it too was new. Beyond resistance lies the still field of contentment, a place where nothing is pushed against and nothing pushes back. In that field, there is rest without effort, peace without the need to arrange or defend. It is always there, waiting, requiring only that resistance be set down. Resentment fades the moment acceptance enters, as shadow fades when light is allowed in. What once felt sharp and unyielding softens, not because the circumstance has changed, but because the relationship to it has shifted. There is no room for resentment where reality is met fully, without condition. No disappointment can linger where there is full consent to reality, for disappointment arises only when what is must compete with what was hoped for. When that competition ends, when hope releases its demand and reality is received without judgment, disappointment loses its hold. What remains is simply what is, and that is enough. There is strength in bowing to the unchangeable, a strength that does not announce itself or require recognition. It is the strength of water moving around stone, of roots finding their way through soil without complaint. To bow is not to break but to remain whole while the world presses. What you yield to cannot enslave you, for enslavement requires resistance, a pulling away that tightens the bond. When yielding is complete, there is nothing to hold, nothing to bind. Freedom is found not in escape but in the softness that allows everything to pass through without clinging, without fear, without refusal. Detachment is not indifference but quiet agreement with truth, a way of seeing clearly without the fog of wanting things to be otherwise. It is not coldness but clarity, not distance but presence without the weight of insistence. The truth simply is, and detachment is the gentle nod that acknowledges this without argument or plea. Let the quiet of understanding replace the noise of desire, that constant hum of wanting and wishing that fills the space where stillness might otherwise rest. Understanding asks for nothing, demands nothing, only observes and knows. In that quiet, there is a softness that desire can never offer, a restfulness that comes when the mind stops reaching. There is freedom in recognizing how little must be controlled, how vast the world is and how small the portion that truly requires any hand at all. Most of what unfolds will unfold without permission or guidance, and in seeing this, the burden lightens. The need to manage and direct begins to fall away, and what remains is simpler, easier, more spacious. The heart rests easiest when it carries no demands, when it meets the day without conditions, without a list of what must happen for peace to arrive. Demands are heavy, each one a stone added to the load, and the heart that sets them down finds itself lighter, freer, able to move without strain. You possess nothing except your response, and even that is all that is needed. Everything else belongs to the world, to time, to forces beyond any single will. But the response, the way of meeting what comes, that remains yours, and in guarding it well there is a kind of sovereignty that nothing external can disturb. Acceptance transforms every outcome into harmony, not by changing what happens but by changing the way it is received. What might have been bitter becomes neutral, what might have been harsh becomes bearable, simply because it is met without resistance, without the insistence that it should have been different. Peace deepens as you stop arranging the future, as the hands that once tried to shape tomorrow learn to rest. The future will come in its own way, and no amount of planning can guarantee its shape. In letting go of that work, something opens, something eases, and the present moment becomes wide enough to hold everything. Each ending opens the space for another beginning unseen, though the ending itself may feel like closure, like finality. But nothing truly ends without something else stirring beneath, waiting for its time. The unseen beginning does not announce itself. It simply arrives when the space has been cleared, when what was has fully passed. To struggle against necessity is to tire before the journey begins, to spend strength on what cannot be moved, what cannot be undone or altered by any amount of force. Necessity simply is, and the struggle against it only deepens exhaustion without changing a single fact of what must be. What resists acceptance grows heavier by your own will, not because the thing itself has weight, but because resistance adds burden with each moment it continues. The longer acceptance is withheld, the more the weight increases, until what might have been light becomes nearly impossible to carry. Release expectation as the tree releases leaves each autumn, not with sadness or reluctance but as part of the natural order, the way things move forward. The tree does not mourn the falling leaves or try to hold them through winter. It lets them go, and in doing so remains whole, ready for what comes next. The passage of time frees those who do not cling, for time moves everything forward whether hands are open or closed. Those who cling find themselves dragged along, struggling to hold what cannot be held, while those who open their hands move with time easily, without strain or sorrow. The sun rises without your effort, so too will peace when you stop forcing it, when the hands that reach and grasp and try to manufacture calm finally rest. Peace is not built or earned or achieved through striving. It arrives on its own when the conditions allow, when the noise quiets and the effort ceases. Fate does not consult, it proceeds, moving through the world without pause or negotiation, indifferent to preference or plan. Wisdom nods and steps aside, not in defeat but in recognition, understanding that what proceeds will proceed and that there is no use standing in its path. Let the course of life reveal itself without resistance, without the need to steer or redirect every turn. Life unfolds in its own way, and the more it is allowed to do so without interference, the more clearly its shape can be seen. Resistance clouds the view, allowance clears it. He who releases outcomes lives lightly among all changes, untethered to any single result, unburdened by the need for things to go a certain way. Changes come and go, and he moves among them as wind moves through an open field, touching nothing, held by nothing, free in every direction. What comes uninvited is still part of your becoming, woven into the fabric of who you are, whether it was chosen or not, whether it was welcomed or arrived against all wishes. There is no separating what happens from what shapes you, no dividing the life you planned from the life that unfolds. Everything that arrives, invited or not, becomes part of the story, part of the slow transformation that continues beneath the surface of each day. The uninvited does not stand apart, it enters and mingles with everything else, and in time it is indistinguishable from what was sought. When you stop opposing the inevitable, it becomes your teacher, offering what resistance could never allow you to see. Opposition closes the mind, tightens the body, narrows the view to a single point of refusal. But when that opposition falls away, when the inevitable is met with openness rather than defense, something shifts. What seemed like an enemy becomes a guide. What felt like punishment reveals itself as instruction. The inevitable carries lessons that only appear when the fight ends. To know your limits is the beginning of peace, for peace cannot take root where there is endless striving against what cannot be changed, where the impossible is pursued as though force alone could make it real. Limits are not failures, they are the edges of what is, the boundaries that define shape and substance. In knowing them, in accepting them without shame or frustration, the heart finds a place to rest. There is no more struggling toward what lies beyond reach, no more exhausting yourself against walls that will not move. Allow impermanence to refine you, not diminish you, to shape and soften and clarify rather than erode or take away. Everything that passes through your life leaves something behind even as it goes, a residue of understanding, a deepening that comes only from having held and then released. Impermanence does not subtract, it polishes, wearing away what is unnecessary, what is rigid, what keeps you from seeing clearly. What perishes fulfills its purpose by ending, completing the arc it was meant to travel, making space for what follows. Nothing is meant to last forever, and the ending is not a failure but a fulfillment, the natural conclusion of a cycle that began long before. To resist the ending is to misunderstand its place, to demand that what has finished continue beyond its time. But the ending itself is purpose, and in allowing it, you honor what was. Accepting limits opens the infinite within you, a paradox that reveals itself only when the fight against limitation ceases. The infinite is not found by pushing past every boundary but by settling into the vastness that exists within the boundaries you have. It is interior, spacious, limitless not in scope but in depth, and it becomes visible only when you stop looking outward for what has always been inward. The steady heart rests even when the road shifts beneath it, unshaken by changes in terrain, by sudden turns or unexpected obstacles. Steadiness is not the absence of movement but the presence of calm within movement, the ability to remain still at the center even as everything around you changes. The road will shift, that is its nature, but the heart that has found its steadiness does not depend on the road remaining the same. To abandon control is to meet truth without disguise, to see what is rather than what you have tried to make it, to encounter reality directly instead of through the filter of your own shaping. Control distorts, bending everything toward a preferred outcome, and in doing so it hides the truth beneath layers of manipulation and effort. But when control is abandoned, when the hands open and the grip releases, truth stands plain and undisguised, and you meet it as it is, not as you wished it to be. You cannot shape the wind, but you can adjust your sail, and in that adjustment lies all the agency that truly matters, all the power that is actually yours to wield. The wind will blow as it blows, shifting direction without warning, gathering strength or falling still according to forces far beyond any single will. To stand against it, to demand it change course or soften or cease altogether, is to waste the energy that could be used for the one thing within your reach, the position of your own sail, the angle at which you meet what comes. This is not resignation but recognition, not powerlessness but a precise understanding of where power actually resides. The adjustment is small, quiet, often unnoticed by others, yet it determines everything about how you move through what the wind brings. The soul at ease lives beyond victory and defeat, untouched by the labels the world assigns to outcomes, unshaken by the judgments that call one result success and another failure. Victory does not elevate it. Defeat does not diminish it. Both are simply events, moments in the long unfolding, and the soul that has found its ease knows this deeply, resting in a place where neither triumph nor loss can reach. It watches victories come and go without clinging to them, watches defeats arrive and pass without being crushed beneath them, and remains constant through all of it, steady in a way that does not depend on circumstances turning out one way or another. What fate assigns, virtue dignifies, transforming whatever comes into something that can be met with grace, with steadiness, with a kind of quiet nobility that does not require favorable conditions. Fate is indifferent, assigning circumstances without regard for fairness or preference, but virtue takes what is assigned and responds in a way that elevates the meeting itself. It does not change what fate has given, but it changes the manner of receiving, and in that manner lies dignity. The harshest assignment, met with virtue, becomes bearable. The easiest, met without it, remains hollow. When you meet events with equanimity, no loss can wound you, for wounding requires that something penetrate, that something reach the place within where you are vulnerable, where your peace depends on things going a certain way. But equanimity closes that vulnerability, not by hardening or armoring but by removing the dependence itself. When events are met with the same calm steadiness regardless of their nature, loss loses its power to harm. It becomes just another event, another moment passing through, and you remain whole through its passing, untouched in the deepest sense even as circumstances change around you. The world moves as one vast breath. You are but an exhale within it, a small part of the enormous rhythm that has continued long before you and will continue long after, a single movement within a pattern too large to fully comprehend. To see yourself this way is not to diminish your significance but to place it accurately within the whole, to understand that you are part of something far greater than yourself and that your role, though small, is exactly what it needs to be. The exhale does not struggle to become the inhale, does not resist its place in the cycle. It simply completes its motion and releases, knowing the breath will continue. Peace deepens as you stop arranging the future, as the constant planning and positioning and attempting to control what has not yet arrived finally comes to rest. The future will unfold in its own way, shaped by forces too numerous and complex to ever fully manage, and the effort to arrange it only creates tension in the present, a tightness that prevents you from being fully here, fully at ease. When that effort stops, when the hands that reach toward tomorrow relax and return to today, peace settles more deeply, filling the space that was once occupied by worry and strategizing and the endless mental rehearsal of what might come. Each occurrence invites calm acceptance or needless turmoil, and the choice, though it may not feel like one, is always present, always yours to make. The occurrence itself is neutral, neither demanding turmoil nor guaranteeing calm, simply arriving as it arrives. What follows depends not on the occurrence but on how it is met, whether with resistance that generates suffering or with acceptance that allows it to pass through without creating upheaval. The invitation is quiet, easy to miss, but it is there in every moment something happens, offering the chance to choose well, to meet what comes with the calm that preserves your peace rather than the turmoil that destroys it. You lose nothing real by releasing illusion, though it may feel like loss at first, like something precious slipping away. But illusion, by its nature, was never real to begin with, never solid or true, only a projection, a wish, a story told to make reality more comfortable or more aligned with desire. When it is released, what remains is what was always there beneath it, the reality that does not need embellishment or alteration to be exactly what it is. The loss is only of facade, of the energy spent maintaining what was never sustainable, and what is gained is the freedom to see clearly, to live in truth rather than in the exhausting maintenance of stories that were never quite true. The river flows toward the sea, whether you struggle or rest. Choose rest, for the destination does not change based on your effort, and the struggling only exhausts you without altering the course by even the smallest measure. The river knows where it is going, has always known, and it will arrive there regardless of whether you fight against the current or allow yourself to be carried. The choice is not between reaching the sea or not reaching it, but between arriving tired and worn from resistance or arriving with energy still intact, having moved with the flow rather than against it. Rest is not passivity but wisdom, the recognition that some forces are so much larger than you that opposing them achieves nothing except your own depletion. To release control is to join the natural movement of all things, to slip into the current that has been moving since long before you arrived and will continue long after you are gone. Control is the illusion that you stand apart from this movement, that you can direct it or reshape it according to your preferences. But the truth is that you are already part of it, already being carried along whether you acknowledge it or not. The release is not a loss but a homecoming, a return to the natural rhythm from which you never truly departed but only imagined you had. When control is released, you stop fighting the current and discover that the current was never your enemy, that it carries you exactly where you need to go if you let it. Whatever comes to you was already on its way, set in motion by forces and decisions and circumstances that preceded this moment by hours or years or lifetimes. Nothing arrives by accident or by surprise in the deepest sense. It was always approaching, always moving toward this intersection with your life, and your awareness of it or lack of awareness changed nothing about its trajectory. To understand this is to soften the shock of unexpected events, to see that what feels sudden was actually the culmination of a long approach, the final step in a journey that began far from your sight. The wise accept that fate needs no explanation, that the why of what happens is often hidden and sometimes non-existent, and that demanding reasons only create suffering without bringing clarity. Fate unfolds as it unfolds, indifferent to your need for understanding, and the search for explanation can become its own kind of trap, a way of refusing to accept what is until it can be made to make sense. But sense is not always available, and the wise know this, meeting what comes without the requirement that it justify itself first. Acceptance does not depend on understanding. It stands alone, complete without reasons. Each moment arrives in perfect order, even when unseen, even when the order is too complex or too vast to be perceived from where you stand. What looks like chaos or randomness or terrible misalignment is often only the small visible piece of a pattern too large to see in its entirety, and the perfection of the order reveals itself only over time, only from a distance, only when enough moments have passed that the shape begins to emerge. Trust in this order does not require seeing it but only acknowledging that your sight is limited, that what you cannot see is not therefore absent. The mind that accepts what is ceases to fear what might be, for fear lives entirely in the space between the present and the imagined future, in the gap where the mind projects disasters and losses and outcomes that have not happened and may never happen. When acceptance fills the present moment completely, when what is met fully without reservation or resistance, there is no energy left over for fear, no space for it to take root. The future becomes less threatening because it is no longer being constructed in advance by a fearful imagination but is simply allowed to remain unknown, undefined, not yet here. You do not own the outcome, only your readiness to meet it, and this readiness is enough, is all that can ever be asked of you. The outcome belongs to the world, to time, to the convergence of countless factors beyond your influence, and trying to own it, to guarantee it, To control its shape is to claim something that was never yours. But readiness is entirely within your domain. The stance you take, the steadiness you cultivate, the openness with which you wait for what comes. This is your work, your responsibility, your only true possession, and it is sufficient for whatever arrives. What falls away was never meant to stay, was always temporary, always passing through, fulfilling its purpose by being present for a time and then departing when that time was complete. To grieve its departure is natural, but to cling to it, to insist it remain beyond its season, is to misunderstand the nature of all things, which is to arrive, to be present, and then to go. Nothing is diminished by leaving when it is time to leave. Everything is honored by being allowed to complete its cycle without being forced to linger past its moment. What falls away makes space for what comes next, and that space is necessary, essential, part of the order that allows life to continue moving forward. Stillness grows when the urge to correct the world fades, when the constant impulse to fix and adjust and improve finally quiets and the world is allowed to be exactly as it is without your intervention. This urge runs deep, showing itself in small ways and large, in the need to have the last word or to set someone straight or to ensure that things are done properly, and each expression of it creates ripples of tension that prevent stillness from taking root. But when the urge begins to fade, when you notice it arising and choose not to follow it, not to act on the conviction that the world needs your correction, something shifts. The space around you becomes quieter, less reactive, and in that quiet the stillness that was always there beneath the noise begins to grow, expanding into the areas once occupied by the need to manage and control and set right. Effort ends where understanding begins, for true understanding dissolves the perceived need for striving, revealing that what you were working so hard to achieve or avoid was never the problem it appeared to be. Effort is born from misunderstanding, from the belief that reality must be forced into a different shape, that peace must be constructed rather than allowed, that safety requires constant vigilance and management. But understanding sees through these beliefs, recognizes them as stories rather than truths, and in that recognition the effort simply falls away. There is nothing left to do because there was never anything that needed doing in the way you imagined. The mind at rest understands what the striving mind cannot, and that understanding brings an end to the exhausting cycle of pushing and pulling against what is. What happens was never otherwise. This is serenity, the deep acceptance that reality could not have unfolded differently than it did, that every moment arrived exactly as it had to given everything that preceded it, every choice, every condition, every invisible factor that shaped the outcome. To believe things could have been otherwise is to live in tension with reality, forever comparing what is to what might have been, forever feeling the gap between them as a wound. But serenity comes when this comparison ends, when you see clearly that what happened was the only thing that could have happened in that moment with those circumstances, and that wishing it otherwise is like wishing the past were different, an impossibility that generates only suffering. Trust that the unseen order holds you, even in silence, even when there is no evidence you can point to, no reassurance arriving from outside, no sign that anything is watching or caring or arranging things for your benefit. The order does not announce itself, does not provide proof of its existence, and yet it continues, vast and intricate, holding everything in its place including you. This trust is not based on evidence but on a kind of surrender, a willingness to believe that you are not abandoned to chaos even when chaos is all you can see, that beneath the surface turbulence there is a structure, a pattern, a holding that requires nothing from you except the trust itself. Nothing demands your control, only your calm presence, and this presence is so much lighter than control, so much easier to maintain, requiring no force or planning or constant adjustment. Control exhausts because it asks you to manage what cannot be managed, to predict what cannot be predicted, to hold together by sheer will what would fall apart without it. But presence asks only that you be here, aware, steady, meeting whatever comes without the need to shape it first. It is simple in a way that control never is, and in its simplicity there is a peace that control can never provide, for control must always be maintained while presence simply is. The wise soul flows with what is given, not what is imagined, releasing the elaborate constructions of how things should be or could be or might have been and meeting instead what actually stands before it in this moment. The imagined is always more appealing than the real, tailored to preferences and wishes, free from the rough edges and disappointments that reality inevitably contains. But to flow with the imagined is to flow with nothing, to move through a world that does not exist while the actual world passes by unmet. The wise soul knows this, sets aside the imagined willingly, and turns its full attention to what is given, finding within it a richness that the imagined, for all its appeal, could never match. The universe unfolds as a scroll beyond your writing, revealing itself line by line, image by image, in a sequence you did not compose and cannot alter. Your role not that of author but of witness, watching the story unfold without knowing what comes next or how it ends. To try to write this scroll yourself is to miss what is already written there, to impose your own narrative over the one that is revealing itself, and in doing so to lose contact with what is actually happening. The scroll continues regardless, indifferent to your attempts to change its content, and peace comes when you stop trying to hold the pen and simply watch what appears. Let fortune's wheel turn. You remain the center that watches, unmoved by the rising and falling, the gaining and losing, the alternation between what the world calls good luck and bad luck, all of it spinning around you while you stay still at the axis, observing but not caught up in the motion. The wheel will turn, has always turned, and your position on its rim changes constantly whether you wish it to or not. But the center does not move, does not rise or fall with the turning, and when you locate yourself there, when you identify with the watching rather than with what is watched, the wheel loses its power to disturb you, and you rest in the stillness that was always available at the very center of all the movement. The world needs no instruction from you to be complete, no guidance or correction or improvement to make it whole, for it already is whole, has always been whole, functioning according to principles and patterns that existed long before you arrived and will continue long after you are gone. This completeness does not depend on your participation or approval, does not wait for you to fix what seems broken or arrange what seems out of place. The world turns, seasons change, life emerges and recedes, all of it happening in a vast choreography that requires nothing from you except perhaps the humility to recognize that your instruction, however well-intentioned, is not what holds things together. To see this clearly is to feel a great weight lift, the burden of thinking yourself responsible for maintaining or perfecting what was never yours to maintain or perfect. Each breath is proof that surrender can still sustain you, that giving up control does not mean giving up life, that releasing your grip on outcomes and circumstances and the future does not leave you helpless or abandoned but rather allows you to continue, moment by moment, breath by breath, held by something larger than your own will. The breath comes without your instruction, fills your lungs without your management, sustains you while you sleep and while you worry and while you try frantically to control what cannot be controlled. It is the body's surrender, its constant demonstration that survival does not require the tight grip of conscious control, and in watching it, in feeling it move through you effortlessly, you can learn what the mind resists, that surrender is not death but another form of life, simpler and more easeful than the exhausting work of holding everything together yourself. When the mind is quiet, the uncontrollable loses its threat, for threat exists only in the interpretation. In the story the mind tells about what might happen, what could go wrong, how terrible it would be if circumstances unfold in one way rather than another. The uncontrollable remains uncontrollable whether the mind is quiet or not, but its nature changes in the silence. What seemed menacing becomes neutral. What felt like an enemy reveals itself as simply another aspect of reality. Neither for you nor against you, just present, just happening. The quiet mind does not generate the fearful narratives that make the uncontrollable seem dangerous, and without those narratives, what remains is only the fact of what is beyond your control, and that fact, met without story, without elaboration, carries no inherent threat at all. The course of nature requires no approval, only observance, unfolding according to laws and rhythms that have never paused to ask whether you agree with their direction or find their outcomes acceptable. Nature does not wait for your consent to change seasons, to bring storms, to allow things to grow and wither and grow again. Your approval is irrelevant to its functioning, and the energy spent approving or disapproving is energy lost to the simple act of watching, of witnessing what unfolds without the layer of judgment that separates you from direct experience. Observance asks only that you see, that you notice, that you remain present to what happens, and in that pure seeing, Without the filter of approval or disapproval, there is a kind of intimacy with reality that judgment makes impossible. Accepting what is lets you walk unshaken among change. Your footing secure not because the ground has stopped shifting, but because you have stopped requiring it to be stable. Stop demanding that circumstances remain constant in order for you to feel safe. Change is the nature of things, the only constant in a world where everything else is in motion, and to resist it is to be perpetually off balance, perpetually bracing against the next shift. But acceptance brings a different kind of stability, one that does not depend on external conditions staying the same, but comes from an internal steadiness that can accommodate any amount of change without losing its center. You walk through change as through weather, sometimes pleasant and sometimes harsh, but always just weather, always just the conditions of the moment, and none of it shakes you because you're not asking it to be other than it is. To let go is to discover contentment hiding beneath effort, waiting there all along in the place you could never reach while striving, while pushing, while convinced that peace must be earned through work and vigilance and the successful management of outcomes. Effort obscures contentment, covers it over with the constant doing that seems necessary but actually prevents you from resting in what is already available. The moment the effort ceases, the moment the hands open and the striving stops, contentment reveals itself, not as something achieved but as something uncovered, always present, always accessible, requiring only that you stop long enough to notice it. It is not the reward for effort but the natural state that effort prevents you from experiencing. Nothing external can steal the calm you guard within, for calm that depends on external conditions is not truly calm but only temporary ease, fragile and contingent, disappearing the moment circumstances turn unfavorable. But the calm that lives within, that you cultivate and protect and return to regardless of what happens around you, that calm is yours in a way nothing external can touch. Loss and gain happen in the outer world, success and failure, praise and blame, all of it passing through without reaching the place where this deeper calm resides. To guard it is not to build walls but to remember it, to return to it when you have been pulled away, to choose it again and again over the reactive turbulence that external events try to create. What leaves you clears the way for what belongs, making space that was previously occupied, removing what had overstayed or never truly fit, allowing the natural order to reassert itself. Not everything that enters your life is meant to remain, and the departure of what does not belong is not loss but correction, the restoration of proper balance. To hold on to what is leaving is to fill your hands with what does not serve you, leaving no room for what would serve you if only space were available. The clearing is necessary, sometimes painful, but always purposeful, and what belongs will find its way to you once the space has been opened, arriving not by force but by rightness, by the simple fact of being what fits in the place that has been cleared for it. The wise do not grieve the turning of events, they accompany them, moving alongside what unfolds rather than standing apart in judgment or sorrow, measuring what happens against what was hoped for and finding it lacking. Events turn as they will, shifting from one state to another without pause or apology, and grief arises only when this turning is met with resistance, with the insistence that things should have remained as they were or should have become something other than what they became. But the wise recognize that the turning is constant, that change is not an interruption of the natural order but its very essence, and in recognizing this they find a way to move with it rather than against it. They do not celebrate every turn or feel joy at every change, but neither do they stand frozen in grief, refusing to move forward because the past has passed. They accompany, they witness, they continue, and in this continuation there is a grace that grief, with its backward gaze, can never access. Fate is not enemy but rhythm. Find your place within its beat, for it moves with a pattern that includes you, that always has included you, even when you felt yourself fighting against it or lost within it or crushed beneath it. The rhythm continues regardless, a pulse that runs through all things, through growth and decay, through meeting and parting, through the cycles that repeat and the moments that come only once, and your struggle against it does not stop the beat or change the tempo but only exhausts you and places you out of sync with what is already moving. To find your place within the rhythm is not to surrender your will but to align it, to discover where you fit in the larger pattern and to move from that place rather than from opposition to it. The beat goes on, and you can step with it or stumble against it, and the choice, though it may not always feel like one, shapes everything about how you experience what comes. You cannot command the outcome, but you can welcome the moment, giving to the present what cannot be given to the future, meeting what is here now with the fullness of your attention and acceptance rather than withholding yourself until conditions become what you wish them to be. The outcome will form itself according to factors beyond your reach, beyond your knowledge, beyond the scope of what any single will can determine, and to place your peace or your presence or your capacity for welcome in the hands of outcomes is to give away what should remain yours. But the moment asks nothing impossible, requires no control over what comes next, only a willingness to be here fully for what is here now. And in that willingness there is a kind of power that commanding outcomes can never provide, the power to remain whole and present regardless of where events lead. What you release, peace replaces, filling the space that was occupied by grasping or worry or the exhausting effort to hold together what was falling apart, slipping into the emptiness left behind when clenched hands finally open. The release itself can feel like loss, like giving up something precious or necessary, and the moment of letting go often carries fear or grief or the vertigo of no longer having something to hold on to. But what follows the release is not the catastrophe that was feared but a settling, a quieting, a peace that was always waiting just beneath the surface tension of holding on. It does not arrive from outside but wells up from within, from the place that was compressed and hidden while everything was being gripped so tightly, and it fills you in a way that what you were holding never could, because peace cannot coexist with grasping but only with the open hand. The mind at rest measures nothing against its wishes, has stopped the constant comparison between what is and what was wanted, has ceased generating the endless evaluations that label each moment as acceptable or disappointing, as meeting standards or falling short. This measuring is the mind's habitual work, so automatic that it often goes unnoticed, and it creates suffering in proportion to the gap between reality and desire, between what arrives and what was expected. But the mind at rest has set down the measuring tools, has stopped reaching for the scale to weigh what happens against what was hoped for, and in that cessation it finds a simplicity that the measuring mind can never know. What is simply is, without needing to be more or less or different, without requiring validation through comparison, and the mind that sees this rests in direct experience rather than in evaluation of experience. The storm of life has no power over the calm within, for the calm that lives at your center is not the calm of favorable conditions but the calm of a mind that has found its stillness regardless of external turbulence, that has located itself in a place storms cannot reach. Life brings storms, sometimes small and passing, sometimes large and sustained, sometimes arriving without warning and sometimes building slowly on the horizon, and there is no avoiding them. No life path that does not include periods of difficulty and chaos and circumstances that feel overwhelming. But the calm within is not dependent on the absence of storms. It exists alongside them, beneath them, in a depth they cannot penetrate no matter their intensity. To find this calm is not to be immune to difficulty but to remain yourself within it. To know that who you are is not determined by what crashes around you. Truth needs no struggle. It remains whether or not you resist, unmoved by your acceptance or denial, existing independent of belief or preference or the stories you tell about it. The struggle against truth is entirely one-sided, all energy expended by the one resisting, while truth itself requires no defense, no argument, no effort to maintain its reality. You can fight it for years, build elaborate structures of denial or justification around it, exhaust yourself in the attempt to make it be otherwise, and when you finally stop, worn down or suddenly clear-eyed, it will still be there exactly as it always was, patient and implacable. The struggle achieves nothing except your own fatigue, and the moment it ends, the moment resistance falls away, you find that truth was never the burden you thought it was, that meeting it directly is so much lighter than the work of avoiding it. Every turning of fate is part of the same design, connected to what came before and what comes after, woven into a pattern too large to see from any single vantage point but coherent nonetheless, each turn necessary to the whole even when its purpose is hidden or seems contradictory to what preceded it. To see only the single turn is to miss the design, to interpret the moment as random or cruel or senseless when it is actually one movement in a long choreography, and the limitation is not in the design but in the viewing, in the inability to step back far enough to see how the pieces fit. Faith in the design does not require seeing it but only trusting that the turns are not arbitrary, that what feels like chaos from up close reveals its order from a distance, and that your life, with all its unexpected turns and apparent contradictions, belongs to this larger pattern as completely as any other life, as any other moment in the vast unfolding of what is. To let go is to dwell in quiet friendship with time, no longer fighting its passage or mourning what it carries away or anxiously reaching toward what it has not yet delivered, but instead moving alongside it as a companion moves, with familiarity and trust and a kind of easeful companionship that requires no resistance and generates no friction. Time moves at its own pace, neither hurrying for your impatience nor slowing for your desire to hold a moment longer, and the attempt to control its movement only places you at odds with something that has never been controllable, creating suffering where there need be none. But when you let go, when you release the need to speed time up or slow it down or stop it altogether in certain precious moments, you discover that time is not your adversary but your companion, and the friendship that forms in that discovery is quiet, undemanding, asking nothing except that you stop fighting and simply move forward together through whatever comes. There is grace in letting events be as they are, a kind of elegance that enters your life when you stop trying to reshape every occurrence to match your preferences, when you allow what happens to stand in its own shape without immediately moving to alter or improve or correct it. This grace is not passivity but a refined form of engagement, a way of meeting life that does not confuse acceptance with approval or allowing with endorsing, but simply recognizes that events have their own nature and that nature does not require your intervention to be complete. The grace shows itself in the smoothness of your movement through circumstances, in the absence of the jerky resistance that comes from constantly pushing against what is, in the quiet dignity of a presence that can witness difficulty without needing to fix it instantly, that can stand in the middle of imperfection without being driven to immediate action. It is the grace of water moving around stones rather than trying to move through them, finding its way forward by accepting the shape of what it encounters. The wise heart lets fortune shift without trembling, remaining steady through rises and falls, through the alternation of what the world calls good luck and bad luck, understanding that both are temporary, both are part of the natural oscillation of circumstances, and neither defines the heart's true condition. Fortune shifts constantly, sometimes bringing what is wanted and sometimes taking it away, sometimes opening doors and sometimes closing them, and the heart that trembles with each shift exhausts itself, rising and falling in rhythm with external changes, never finding solid ground. But the wise heart has found a steadiness that exists independent of fortune's movements, a core stability that does not depend on circumstances remaining favorable, and from that steady place it watches fortune shift the way one might watch clouds move across the sky, noting the changes without being moved by them, interested but not invested, observing but not shaken. What stands beyond your reach belongs kindly to eternity, held in a place you cannot access not as punishment or deprivation but simply because not everything is meant to be within your grasp, because the boundaries of what you can touch and influence and control are real and necessary and not a sign of failure. Eternity holds what you cannot hold, keeps what you cannot keep, and there is kindness in this arrangement rather than cruelty, for it means you are not responsible for maintaining everything, not required to stretch yourself infinitely to reach what was never meant to be reached. Some things belong to the realm beyond your influence, and in accepting this you free yourself from the exhausting attempt to extend your reach further than it can go, from the suffering that comes from feeling you should be able to grasp what remains perpetually just beyond your fingers. The boundary between what you can reach and what you cannot is not your enemy but your release, marking the edge of your responsibility and allowing you to turn your full attention to what lies within your actual domain. The earth turns, the stars move, none ask your permission, and this asking has never been part of their nature, has never been necessary for their continuation or their proper functioning. They proceed according to patterns established long before consciousness arose to observe them, before any mind existed to grant or withhold permission, and they will continue in the same way regardless of whether you approve or object or even notice. There is something deeply freeing in this recognition, in seeing clearly that the vast machinery of existence does not wait for your consent, that the universe is not holding its breath for your approval before proceeding with its next movement. It means you are relieved of a burden you never truly carried but perhaps imagined you did, the weight of thinking that reality needed something from you before it could continue, and in setting down that imaginary burden you find yourself lighter, smaller in scale but also more appropriately placed within the whole, a witness to grandeur rather than a required participant in its functioning. Acceptance is the gate through which peace enters, the single threshold that must be crossed, the opening that allows what has always been available to finally arrive and take up residence within you. Without acceptance, the gate remains closed, and peace, though it waits patiently on the other side, cannot enter, cannot reach you through the barrier of resistance and denial and the insistence that things be different than they are. But acceptance opens the gate, not through effort or force but simply through the cessation of keeping it closed, through the relaxation of the guard you have posted against reality. And the moment it opens, peace flows through naturally, inevitably, like water finding its level. You do not have to call it or create it or construct it piece by piece. You only have to stop blocking its entry, and acceptance is how you stop blocking it, the key that turns in the lock and swings the gate wide and allows peace to come home. Lay down the armor of control. Nothing real can harm you, for what is real in you exists at a depth that circumstances cannot reach, that loss and failure and disappointment cannot touch no matter how devastating they feel at the surface. The armor of control is heavy, built up piece by piece over years of learning to protect yourself, to manage outcomes, to prevent pain through careful planning and constant vigilance, and it seems necessary, seems like the only thing standing between you and destruction. But it is the armor itself that weighs you down, that restricts your movement, that keeps you locked in constant defensive posture, and what it protects is not actually vulnerable in the way you imagine. Your true self, the essential core of who you are, cannot be harmed by the things you spend so much energy trying to control, and when you finally lay down the armor, when you risk standing undefended before what comes, you discover that you are stronger without it than you ever were beneath its weight, that the vulnerability you feared is actually freedom. In yielding to what must be, the soul finds its true proportion, discovers its right size and place within the larger order, no longer inflated by the effort to control what cannot be controlled or diminished by the failure to prevent what could not be prevented. The soul that refuses to yield imagines itself larger than it is, assigns itself responsibilities and powers it does not possess, takes on burdens that were never meant to be carried by a single being, and in doing so loses touch with its actual nature, its real capacity, its proper role. But yielding restores proportion, brings the soul back to its natural dimensions, and in that return there is immense relief, for the true proportion is so much more sustainable than the false inflation, so much easier to maintain, requiring no pretense and generating no exhaustion. The soul at its true size moves through the world with an ease impossible when it was trying to be larger than itself, and in that ease it finds not limitation but liberation, not smallness but rightness, the perfect fit of being exactly what it is and nothing more.